Hey guys, I am going to talk you through the one set of notes we have for this short unit on the Holocaust, and those are called the Holocaust notes. So the notes are found in Schoology. They're also linked into this weekly plans document. So Tuesday, March 31st, the slideshow is linked into the Holocaust notes. It looks like this. It's also found in Schoology in the Virtual Learning Days Holocaust Unit folder. This orange folder, Holocaust Notes. Okay, slideshow is right there. Then the other thing you're going to need, going back to the weekly plans, is the note sheet. Okay, so the note sheet, again, you can find that in Schoology, or it is linked into the weekly plans as well. That's the same doc. And it looks like this. Okay. You are going to need to make a copy of this for yourself, and you will need to share it with me so that when you turn it in, I can see it. I also got a couple emails from people last week saying if I'm someone that likes to write them out, can I print them off and write on them and take a picture and email it to you for a grade? That works too. However you like to take notes, as long as you can show me that you did it, it's really up to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on these notes. So here's my slideshow. Go into presenter mode. I'm going to turn my picture on. Okay. All right, Holocaust. So kind of a warning here. This is difficult content to talk about. Some of kind of the things that we're going to talk about, the primary sources, images that you might see or videos could be disturbing to you. They probably will be disturbing to you. If you feel that this lecture is too much for you at any given point, that's totally understandable, especially with what we have going on right now. Your stress level might be a little bit higher than normal. Please just reach out to your teacher, either Mrs. Mayer or myself, and we will provide you with an alternative assignment and way of learning about this. And if you, after the lecture, after I talk through this with you guys, you have any questions or you feel upset about anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here for you, and we know that this is a very difficult topic to talk about. So I'm going to do my best. It's going to be a little bit more difficult too, just kind of talking to a screen rather than talking to a classroom of you guys where I can kind of gauge your reactions. So I'm going to do the best that I can with this. All right, here we go. Oh, again, I'm sorry. I should have said as well, the note sheet you need to be filling out. Make sure that you're following along with this, okay? This is what's going to be graded, and you're going to submit this to Schoology at the end. Or, like I said, you can print off a copy of it and make and send a picture of your completed notes to me as well, whatever works for you. Okay, so we have two essential questions for this set of notes. One, what were the stages of the Holocaust? And then two, what is the lasting legacy of the Holocaust? Okay, so we're going to start with a term that's going to be important to understand the Holocaust. That's genocide. So genocide, by definition, is the deliberate killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular ethnic group or nation. Okay, so it's going to be the targeted killing of a group of people. And the Holocaust is a genocide because it's the targeted killing of anyone who is a non-German person, but particularly going to be going after Jewish people. Okay, so genocides are something that have happened throughout history, not just during the Holocaust. And as historians and people that study these things, we know that there are 8 stages of genocide. So I'm going to talk you through each of these 8 stages, and then I will use this as kind of a vehicle to understanding the Holocaust. So as we go through the Holocaust, I want you to think about, okay, what stage of genocide does this sound like? Okay, and it's noted down here too, but know that this process is not linear. So what that means is, linear means things go in an order, they go in the same order every time. These things don't necessarily have to go in this order. This is kind of the order that they go in a lot of times, but you could flip these around and it would still be genocide. Okay, so the first one that we're going to talk about is classification. Okay, so this is distinguishing people into us versus them by some kind of characteristic, either ethnicity, race, religion, or nationality. In this case, in the Holocaust, it's going to be German versus Jew. And another example of genocide, which was much more modern, the 1994 genocide in Rwanda, the Hutu versus the Tutsi. Those were different groups of people that they made feel different from each other. So classifying or kind of saying they are different than this other group. Okay, symbolization means giving names or symbols to these classifications. So it's going to be making those people that are the other group stand out some way. So either by how they dress, putting an actual symbol on them, like we're going to talk about with the Jews, putting a J or the Star of David on them. With the Hutu and Tutsi that I just talked about in Rwanda, which I don't think I said that was in Africa, just by the way. They made people have, like on their driver's license or their passports or any ID, they put something on there if they were a Tutsi, which was the minority group that had the genocide enacted against them. So making them some kind of visible symbol that makes them stand out. Dehumanization. Dehumanization is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's making the other group not appear to be human, denying the humanity of that other group. So members are treated like animals, vermin, insects, or diseases. Again, going back to the 1994 Rwandan genocide, the Tutsi, the group that had the genocide enacted against them, were called cockroaches. Organization. So organizing, this is like having a plan to make the genocide happen, and it's usually using like something outside of the government so that they don't have, they can have deniability there. Polarization, this is hate groups broadcasting propaganda that makes it very black and white, us versus them. So, for example, laws may forbid intermarriage between the us and them group or any social interaction, making them really different. Preparation, separating victims because of this otherness. Death lists are drawn up and their property is taken away from them. So basically taking away people's rights, taking away anything that they own, and having lists of people ready to go when it's time for the genocide. And the extermination is then the actual mass killing that is the legal genocide, when you're actually killing the people that you have prepared on that list. And then denial usually comes after or absolutely during, saying this isn't happening, trying to cover it up along the way. Okay, so again, think about these 8 stages, and you have them on your notes. So hopefully as I kind of talked through them, either go back and listen again or read what they say and put into your own words each stage of the Holocaust. This is going to be really important and something that we'll come back to again, hint, hint, summative writing, understanding these different stages of the Holocaust. Okay, so let's kind of look at the Holocaust through these different stages. So starting with the early stages. So Hitler, you guys heard a lot about him during World War II. You know he's the leader of Germany. He's going to tap into a long history of hatred for European Jews. This isn't something that is new. They're oftentimes blamed for problems in Germany, like they were the reason we lost World War I. And there's a lot of history here. I'm going to skip over that and not go into total depth so that this isn't super long. I'm trying to make it short. But basically, Hitler claims that the Germanic people are an Aryan race or a master perfect race that is better than everyone. And this saying, this is us, this is what we are, everyone else is going to be a them. It's going to be versus us, and they aren't going to be as good as us. Okay, 1935 Nuremberg Laws. So basically, this is going to be Hitler and the Nazis actually changing German laws to make it so that Jews no longer have rights because they're no longer German citizens. These laws happen gradually, and it does things like outlaws marriage between Jews and non-Jews. Think about what is that an example of that stages of the Holocaust. Where could you say, that sounds like one of those stages, 8 stages of genocide that we talked about. It's going to limit their opportunities to work and basically start setting up the idea that they have less rights than the German people. Okay, Kristallnacht, also known as the Night of Broken Glass. So we're kind of moving quickly through the years here. So Nuremberg Law is 1935. This is 1938. Before Kristallnacht, even though the Nuremberg laws had been passed, Jews still had some rights. They could do things like go to the theater, be out in the streets in crowds. This is really going to be the first true big act of violence enacted against the Jewish people. Basically what happened is on this night of Kristallnacht, which means the night of broken glass, the Nazis went out and they attacked Jewish homes, businesses, synagogues. You can see here pictured the Night of Broken Glass. It gets that name because literally they broke storefronts and there's a lot of broken glass. Here's a synagogue which they burned down. It's important because Jews no longer felt safe. It's this huge act of violence against them. But it also marks a major step up in Nazi persecution against the Jewish people. And the immediate result is that a ton of Jews get out of Germany. Sorry, not Europe. A ton of Jews get out of Germany. They no longer feel safe, so they flee to surrounding countries, which keeps them safe temporarily, but then as you know, in World War II, the progression of how much territory the Nazis took over, eventually a lot of those people that went to Czechoslovakia and Poland are eventually not going to be safe for long. Okay, if you're interested in learning more, this is a video of Holocaust survivors talking about the Night of Broken Glass. You can always go and watch that video on your own. It's about 10 minutes long. Okay, so classifying, think about what stage of the genocide are we talking about with each of these examples I'm giving you, or how the Holocaust amps up over time. How can we tell if someone is Jewish? How do we classify them? Things like Jews by law had to put a J on their passport so that they could no longer travel without saying, I'm Jewish. And something you've probably heard of before, Jews had to wear a yellow Star of David or a patch on them that said that they were Jewish. And I have some examples on the slide here. You can see that here is a group of people wearing them, and then here are some. A question students ask a lot of times is, okay, why would a Jewish person do this? Why would they put this on themselves? Why would they want to stand out, especially when they knew it was going to make them a target? Well, for one, by this point, there was census records, things like tax returns, synagogue membership lists. Synagogues are places of worship for Jews that had this information already, so people just by filling this out had made themselves a target without knowing it years before. Also questioning neighbors and relatives and figuring it out. So then they were classified as the other group. So Hitler called Jews, literally he said it's the Jewish problem. And his original plan was, I want Germany only to have the Aryan race, so he's going to try to get all of the Jews to leave Germany. Okay, that's called emigration. He's trying to make life miserable in Germany to get all the Jews out. But this isn't working for Hitler. It's not working fast enough. It's not effective enough because other countries also had this deep hatred, historical hatred of Jews as well, and just weren't accepting them. So Hitler kind of amped up the tactics against Jews and created what are called ghettos. Excuse me. Ghettos are segregated Jewish areas where they're actually sealed off, as you can see here in this picture, with barbed wire and stone, and Jews were basically had their homes taken from them and were forced to move in these shanty towns, these shacks that were hastily built, very unsafe houses. Multiple families might have to live in a house together without a lot of their possessions. and they were really dirty and overcrowded. Oftentimes they wouldn't have access to a lot of the things that they needed, like food. Think about even like putting it in context of what we're living with right now. Your family might be worried about food and getting food and have made trips to the grocery store where there isn't a lot of food. You know that kind of feeling of panic and fear and what that might be like if you lost your home as well as not having enough food, and what these Jews are feeling at this time. Basically, though, while this was terrible, if you were a Jew, to Hitler and the Nazis, they were still not dying quickly enough in leaving Germany quickly enough in this ghetto situation. So that's going to lead us to what's called the final solution, and this is going to be in 1942. This is going to be where the Nazis outline, set up, draw this program of genocide. So basically they're going to enact a program where they are going to kill anyone that is not someone that is Aryan. So this is what they call subhumans. So this is Polish people, Russians, homosexuals, mentally, physically disabled, incurably ill, anyone who's not a Christian, but especially going to be focused on the Jews. So when we talk about the Holocaust, a lot of time we think Jews. Yes, a huge portion of the people that die in the Holocaust are the Jews, but it's also other groups of people as well. Anyone Hitler considered to be not Aryan. And there's also something, don't really have time to get into it, but the Aryan race is a really made-up concept as well. There's lots of YouTube videos out there. If you have questions about that and want to have a discussion with me about it, feel free to reach out. But this idea of an Aryan race is something that Hitler makes up himself. There's historical ties, but cultivates this idea of we're an Aryan race that's not true. Okay. So final solution. So basically the plans that they draw up, what stage of genocide is this? Think about that. Young and fit, going to be destroyed. Destruction is a euphemism or a more positive way of saying killed. Anyone who's young and fit, they're going to work them to death. Their original plan was to shoot people, but then as so you have to remember World War II is going on at this point in the backdrop of this, and so they needed the bullets for the war effort. They would keep some Jews in ghettos, hoping that they would die there, and then anyone that they did not feel was young and fit enough to work would be sent to a death camp for special treatment, again another euphemism, which means to kill them. So anyone that was a young infant was just taken and killed. Women that weren't seen to be strong enough, again, killed. Okay, so how this happened, Hitler had elite forces known as the SS. They basically went from town to town, at this point more like ghetto to ghetto, liquidating them, killing anyone that was not fit enough, and then anyone that was fit would be put on a truck or a train and sent to a concentration camp. Concentration camps, these are work camps, so slave labor camps where people are held prisoner against their will, extraordinarily terrible conditions. The goal is still to kill them, even though they're sent to a concentration camp. And then, again, anyone who was not seen to be strong enough to work in the concentration camps were sent to a death camp. So you see in this picture, these camps are mostly in Germany and then Poland. Because remember, at this point, Germany had taken over Poland really quickly to start World War II. The concentration camps are going to be mostly in Germany, the work camps, and then the death camps are going to be mostly in Poland. The work camps in Germany because they wanted supplies for the war effort, and then also because then they could deny later, well, we didn't know anything about the death camps. They weren't even in our country. So they purposely put the death camps in Poland so that they could act like they didn't know anything about them. Again, what stage of genocide is denying that you know anything about it. So tactics they use against Jews, they use things like deception, like telling the Jews, you can write a postcard back home to your loved ones, oh, the death camps don't exist. so that people would be more willing to get on the trains. And then also terror, they would just shoot anyone that didn't listen, or at the concentration camps, anyone that refused to work, they would just shoot people and kill them. Starvation, they were given about 1,000 calories a day, which is like a fourth to a third of what you need to survive. They would get like thin soup, scraps of bread, potato peels. Most prisoners lost 50 pounds in just the first few months. Again, the goal is to kill people, so they weren't worried about keeping them alive. And then dehumanization, treating them like animals, less than, making people see them not as human. And you guys can kind of think about when you saw that Rise of the Third Reich video before we left to virtual learning. Think about ways that they talked about Jews and propaganda to make them seem less than the master Aryan race. Okay, so then if you were sent to a death camp, an extermination camp, basically the goal of these was to kill as many people as they could. So the Nazis built these huge camps that were really like industrial places where the goal was to kill as many people as they could. They built these huge gas chambers that could kill up to 6,000 people a day. So this is a picture of Auschwitz. It's the largest and probably most famous of the death camps. It's someplace you can visit today still to remember what happened there. You see the train tracks coming in. So if you were someone that was deemed subhuman, you would come in this way. And you were separated on arrival. You would have a fitness test, and if you were declared young and fit enough for work, that's what you would do. You would work, oftentimes like loading dead bodies into the crematorium. If you were weak, you were told to remove your clothes for a shower, and then you would go into this large, I think I don't have the picture anymore, but you could look this up if you were curious. It's basically like a large room that you were told for a shower, and instead poison gas would come out. And the people inside would be killed in a matter of minutes. More than 2 million people are going to die at Auschwitz during the time that it was running, during the Holocaust. Okay, if you're interested in taking a drone tour of Auschwitz, here is a video you can check out. Here's another video. I posted a couple in there. So, lasting consequences. 11 million people died during the Holocaust. 6 million of that are Jews. It's about 2/3 of Europe's population of Jews. Fewer than 4 million are going to survive. And then think about if you had survived this horrific ordeal. Pretty much everyone knew someone, a mother, father, brother, sister, child, husband, that had died in this. They had lost everything. Their homes were taken from them, their businesses. Oftentimes they didn't have any possessions with them except what they could maybe hide or smuggle, but that was very rare. They had lost everything, so it was really hard to return home because they didn't necessarily even have a home to return to. And if they were a German Jew, then their neighbors had turned on them, so they wouldn't have even felt safe to return. So a lot of displaced Jews throughout Europe. It's going to see the creation of a country called Israel in 1948 to be a homeland for the Jews, someplace that they could go, and we'll talk more about that later in the year. How then are we going to deal with the Nazis is a question that the winners of World War II have to deal with. So they set up something called the Nuremberg trials in 1945, and they last about a year until 1946. They put 22 Nazi leaders on trial, and basically that is how they deal with punishing those that committed these horrible, heinous crimes. As we talked about in the World War II notes, Hitler had already committed suicide by this point, so he never was tried. And some of the highest members of the Nazis had also committed suicide. So the Nuremberg trials had some justice, though. Okay, here's some more videos if you're interested. Some of these are also going to be in the oral history videos. Some people still deny the Holocaust ever happened today. It's actually in Germany illegal to deny the Holocaust. It's something that could get you thrown in jail because it's so harmful and hurtful to people that experience this. But still, some people do it. So if you're interested in talking or learning about that, there's some information out there too. Okay, so to wrap this up, you have these notes to fill out. Make sure you do the summary. What I want you to do is go through each of those 8 stages of genocide and give me an example from the Holocaust. So I did the first one for you. So for classification, remember what classification is. It is making an us versus them type of situation in the country. So I put Jewish people had their passports stamped with the letter J, classifying them as different. So go through and give a different example for each stage from the notes, and then give me one of the lasting legacies of the Holocaust. Okay, again, if any of this was difficult for you, you want to talk about it, you have extra questions, there's so much more we could cover, but I was really trying to keep this to 20 minutes so that we could keep it really condensed. But there's so much more. So if you have any questions or you want to have a conversation, do not hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy, and I know Miss Mayer would be too, to talk to you guys about anything. Okay, I will leave it there then. Make sure when you finish your note sheet, you turn it into Schoology for a formative grade by Wednesday, April 1st, 11:59 p.m.